Jolan true, Centurions, and welcome back to another episode of Starfleet Command. Orion Pirates plus mod. I'm Rear Admiral Tyrek of the Dreadnought RAS Gale X-Ray as we continue our campaign against the United Federation of Planets, and the current sort of progress that we're going through is to cut off this little squiggle here and take it out. We're not doing the normal cut the entire empire in half, mostly because, well, the angle that we ended up going in sort of worked out this way. So let's continue our operations, and we're going to try and capture this planet and the station right next to it. If we can manage to pull off that, we'll be in a great shape to actually hold that line. So kicking off our first mission of the day, it is a heavy cruiser slash battle cruiser. What type is it? Just out of curiosity, it doesn't really matter. It's a BCF, so a Bismarck class, armed with 2 plasma torpedoes. And yeah, let's see if it's got anything interesting worth stealing from. Nope, absolutely nothing, so it's completely empty. So we've been having a lively little discussion about enveloping plasma torpedoes lately, which has been awesome. I'm learning so much about it. And GTA has definitely been pointing out the fact that you've got to remember, you've got pseudo-frigates. These little bad boys are each packing 4 plasma torpedoes apiece. The ones that we're packing are essentially just small frigates. I mean, they've got transporters, they've got tractor beams, they've got heavy weapons, and they're relatively quick. So to say that we don't have a follow-up after using our enveloping plasma torpedoes, I guess is a little bit wrong. I guess that really does speak to my normal experience of just being a single ship heavy cruiser type captain who prefers it that way. So not really thinking about the multiple angles with which we can come the pseudo-frigates at. More too heavily focused on the direct things that I can do with my starship. Something we're going to have to sort of get around. I mean, we have been in the Gale X-Ray for a little while now, and it's proven to be an excellent ship. Very well balanced in terms of the heavy firepower that it brings to bear, and also bringing an absolute metric ton of firepower in the pseudo-frigates as well. So, however, we are squaring off against a light cruiser, a heavy war destroyer, an alphabet soup, the first of its kind that we've seen, I believe. So we're not going to bother with enveloping plasma torpedoes. We're just going to gut punch it out. It's already starting to open fire with its photon torpedoes, getting some hits on the Bismarck class over here. Looks like the Federation doesn't want us to be able to steal it and get its top secret information. We will allow it to do so, and instead threaten it with all our heavy firepower. Eat plasma torpedo, and tell me exactly what you think you're going to do with all this. Of course, pulling off in a way, make sure that 1, he doesn't get accurate scans to realize those are all fake, and 2, so that we can come back in at a relatively decent angle to engage him from. The Wild Weasel will now sort of drift along until he hits a speed of 4, which the AI is not quite smart enough to realize. And when we come back in, we'll be able to hit him with absolutely everything. And I think we've managed to do the angles right here, and we will be able to make the turn to fire pretty much all of our plasma without having to use a high energy turn, although I'm going to be a little bit concerned about the R-type plasma torpedo. Nope, it does get in there, but we are not firing our 2 starboard side torpedoes. Hitting him with the phasers, a flat 100 damage, dealing a nice amount of hittage. Coming in with the stern firing phasers, able to cut through most of his back shields, but not all of them. And I totally missed the actual name of the ship. So we'll come back around in the other direction. The S-type plasma torpedo should be within range to hit him. He's slowed down to a speed of 8. I'm assuming he's got power problems. I mean, if you took 100 damage and you were just a heavy war destroyer, would you not have power problems? We're not, of course, deploying the pseudo-frigates on this mission. He's a light cruiser. Technically a heavy war destroyer. He's no threat to us at all. So we can just continue along doing whatever we want to do. And he did lose his shuttle bay, so he won't be able to mess with us doing that. The Hawk fighters, of course, plinking away at the Bismarck class, trying to destroy it. They will, of course, probably blow it up before the game blows it up for them. And as we come on in, basically, this is the final attack run. He does not live beyond this. I assume. He might. Federation ships are pretty tough. And they've surprised me on more than one occasion. Nope, the game got to it first. Interesting. And he has already turned and begun to engage us. We shall fire our torpedoes at him. He slowed down and sped right back up because he realized how much pain is coming his way. I will, of course, devote all of our phaser fire on these fighters. Try and weaken them so that they can't do anything. There we go. All fighters destroyed. How you doing? The USS Montgomery was its name. Unfortunately, engaging his little fighters was enough to make it so that we have some problems. So we're going to high energy turn to keep right on him. All weapons select. Slow down just a little bit. We don't want to overshoot him too much, and we do have to wait a little bit of time for our plasma torpedoes to come charging on. He's fired his phasers into our forward, and we are not reinforcing shields, which luckily, because of the lightness of the enemy we're facing, wasn't a big deal, but it could have been. Fire a plasma torpedo, see if this breaks him. Probably not. Nope. But the R-Type didn't even get out of the tube. It's still here. The phasers ripped them to pieces. Luckily, that is operation complete in our favor, and we will be able to move on. Please take the tile? I didn't think so. It's a neutral tile to begin with. It starts with its own, I guess, empire defense, more like neutrality defense. So we do have to put a little bit of extra effort to retake this planet. Because technically, I think according to the game code, neutral is actually like a faction in this game. It doesn't like produce missions for itself and can't take territory, but it is an all-around faction. Just something that sort of amuses me. So, looking out, nothing targeted as of yet. We're going to come through, make sure we don't forget the forward shield reinforcement this time. Reinforce, thank you. Cycle the battery so things don't get busted, because it does happen on occasion. And go hunting for the enemy somewhere around here. I would put power into the sensors, but by the time that happens, you know, we'll have found them already. There's a BCJX. The BCJs are armed with... It's not additional photon torpedoes, is it? Because there's the Bismarcks, the Kirovs, the Excelsiors, and the New Jersey class. And this is the New Jersey class. And the Bismarcks, the BCFs, those are armed with plasma torpedoes. The BCVs, yeah, BCV, the Kirov class, they're armed with a couple of fighters and missile launchers. And the BCJs, well, the BCE is the Excelsior, and it's armed with a stern-firing photon torpedo. BCJ, I'm not 100% sure on. Could this be additional missile firepower? Let's send a probe, find out exactly what it is we're dealing with. Because each one of the battlecruisers has something special about them. And because the battlecruisers happen to be my favorite class in this game, and because I absolutely adore the Kirov design that they're using... Oh, it's an additional forward-firing photon torpedo? I think that's what that is. Because on the Kirov, this photon torpedo would be a missile launcher, and on the Bismarck, this photon torpedo is a... on the Bismarck, this would be a plasma torpedo. I keep forgetting that. Or is it these at the plasma torpedo? Anyway, so it's got an additional forward-firing photon torpedo, which will make it very interesting to fight. Not like hard or anything, just interesting. It's it basically brings him up to the firepower of a dreadnought in terms of his forward hitting ability. Not necessarily well as support weapons, although he does have a pretty significant backup with his phasers. He's packing what? 4, 8, 10... Yeah, 10 phaser X's. That is nobody's fool when it comes to armament. Everything! Go see this and get scared and run away. Unfortunately, we fired this way too late, so we are going to have to use a high energy turn to get back in on this. And you may have noticed, yes, we are setting up for an enveloping plasma torpedo run, because I want to see if I can't trick him into being... If we can't sort of mess around with this. So deploy, 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 deploy. As we sort of learn how to be Romulan. Get ready with the plasma torpedoes. We'll hit them with absolutely everything we've got. We're within the range of 10, so that'll mean it'll hit at full power. And I'm a little concerned... Nope, we should be able to get the starboard plasma torpedoes involved. All weapons fire. All weapons shoot. Yeah, all of his shields are gone, and then... Yep. So GTA, 100% right on that. Wow. The follow-up is pretty impressive. So we do have to remember that pseudo-frigates absolutely amazing. We've known this, too. Like, we fight pseudo-frigates, and the order of the day is always immediately hunt for the pseudo-frigates, ignore the base hull ship. You should always try and kill the pseudo-frigates before anything else happens. A similar thing along the veins of how we fight fighters. But still, it takes me a little while to just mentally internalize that, because I prefer to, you know, fly a heavy cruiser or a dreadnought or something that's on its own and not supported by its own fleet. But yeah, that was incredibly effective. I'm impressed. Just showing that the Romulans have a lot of interesting options. That's one of the great things about this game. Each of the factions, and we've played, well, every single one of the factions at this point, have their own unique way of playing this game. So the Federation, it's a solid, flexible design. The middle of the road in every direction. Klingons, super maneuverable. The Gorn, the ultimate tanks. ISC is a fascinating set of play styles. Romulans, who sort of do this U-boat style alpha strike maneuvers. Every single faction has something interesting going on with it. And it's one of the reasons why I absolutely adore this game. Because we've played 8 campaigns, and every campaign has had something different to teach me. Which I think just speaks to the fantastic game design that they put into this. Truly a labor of love was brought to convert the original Starfleet battles into this game, and I would love to see a developer take this on again and try and bring even more complexity to it, bring more of the Starfleet battles things over to it, just because it's so much fun. This is a galactic survey cruiser, so they are surprisingly resilient, which we have found on many occasions. We still suffer the scars of the USS Sydney from its absolute masterful handling and managing to really punch us in the gut throughout the entire mission. So we're going to set up once again, I think, for the enveloping torpedo attack, the ability to strip shields and then follow up with those pseudo frigates. I am the converted at this point. It's fantastic. Now we do get around the AI because what we do is we will not deploy the pseudo frigates until after they've launched their Wild Weasel. That way the AI knows that the Wild Weasel is out there and won't set itself up to basically waste itself on the enemy targets. Because if we deploy them early, like at a range of 30 or 40, they'll start engaging with their pseudo-plasma torpedoes from, one, outside optimal range, but also before they figure out that he's actually deployed his Wild Weasel. And so when he deploys it, suddenly half your initial salvo is gone. So instead, we're going to exploit the AI a little bit, fire the pseudo-torpedoes, get them to drop the Wild Weasel, then drop our pseudo-frigates. The AI will not waste its firepower as long as a Wild Weasel is active, and then we'll be able to really go in there and take the fight to him. Although it is going to take a little while for our weapons. Ooh, looks like he's immediately gone to engage the Teamster, which isn't a horrible idea, because he's got no shields, and so any damage dealt is, well, basically free, because it'll get through the shields and there's no regeneration for that. However, the main problem comes from the fact that, as you can see, the Teamster is only armed with 2 disruptors. It's nothing. And wait for him to dump a Wild Weasel. Is he? Yep, there it is. So we'll continue our little swing out maneuver. USS Hampton. I was expecting a couple of fighters. I'm a little surprised not to see them because I could have sworn the GSCs carried at least a small complement of fighters. Anyway, let's get on to deploying our pseudo frigates. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All set up on the attack. He started to increase speed, and his acceleration is actually pretty good, so we'll be able to fire absolutely everything into him. Eat pain. Fire our phasers into that. We can just as much as we can. Turn on immediately our tractor defense so that we don't take any hits through that we don't have to. Oh, it's so much plasma. And it adds up quickly. So lashing out with the last of our stern-firing weapons, and we can pull away with pretty much impunity. Set our torpedoes back to normal mode. We're not going to need the enveloping anymore, because I don't anticipate... Yeah, that's what I was anticipating, him dying before anything could happen. It is nice to be aggressive with those guys, because one of my major concerns is they're 248 prestige apiece. If you lose even one of those, that's a major setback for an entire mission. So I'm really gun-shy about actually deploying them into combat. Looks like they're trying to get around our cordon, and we finally get a mission on this tile. We've only been bouncing back and forth on this tile for the past entire episode so far. Going on random patrols, trying to keep the enemy pushed back. I'm not going to set up... yeah, we won't set up the enveloping just yet. Main reason, of course, I want to see what I'm fighting, because if it's a light cruiser, I'm not going to set up the enveloping plasma torpedoes. There's no point. Too weak to bother. But if it's a dreadnought or a heavy cruiser, then yeah, it makes a lot of sense to go after that. So increase the speed of times, just so we can get an idea of where and what the enemy is. And there it is. It is, in fact, a dreadnought. It is more than a dreadnought. This is the almighty carrier. Are you an SCS? You are. Okay, so this is the second most powerful carrier that the Federation can possibly field. And this is making me concerned about deploying my pseudo-frigates. Crap. You are going shotgun mode. You are going shotgun mode. Really, I need to deploy them all in shotgun mode. Okay, so here's the deal. This is a space control ship. It is the second largest carrier that the Federation can field. It's the largest pure carrier that the Federation can field. The only other one that they get is the BPP. And this is an SCSX, which means all of its Phaser 1s are going to be Phaser X's, which are frighteningly scary. In addition to that, he's going to be able to launch, I believe, 16 or 20 fighters. I can't remember if the SCS gets up to 20 fighters. You can only field 4 groups of fighters in this game. I haven't found anybody who fields more than that so far. But they will go up to units of 5 if they have 20 fighters. We saw that on the Hydrogen ships. So he's going to be able to deploy at least 4 groups of fighters. So what we're going to do is we're going to set our R and S plasma torpedoes to defensive or shotgun mode. Basically, when we fire torpedoes, it's going to fire multiple F-type plasma torpedoes per hardpoint. I believe the S is 2 and the R is 3 or maybe 4. Yep, and there's what we were looking for. So our primary target is going to be that. Let's make sure that we do not skimp on the forward defensive shield because he will have lots of photon torpedoes managing to bust right through because we were not active on that. Let's increase speed because we're going to want to play sort of a stealth game. The goal is going to be to wipe out his fighters and then disappear for recharge and let him waste his time in open space against us. So when we hit a range of 10, we're going to fire all of our heavy plasma torpedoes. So these ones, select, fire all of them. You are going to get an F-type plasma torpedo. You are going to get an F-type plasma torpedo. You are just going to get all my phaser fire. Yep, phasers are away, and not as much as I was hoping. I was hoping to kill all of them. We're down to 2 fighter groups, and I think it's time. If you're going home, I'm not going to bother, but if you come after me, I'm going to disappear. Disappear time. Let's slow way down. We're going to drop under our cloak. That'll make the fighters mostly useless, and they'll be able to just plink away at our shields. That's a scatter pack or a wild weasel? Oh, he wild weaseled after we shotgunned. Fortunately, wild weasels in this game do not affect other ships. Dump a mine, see if we can't play a little bit of a screw you game. And yeah, you see that? His photon torpedoes are just not effective. The irony here is we actually kind of want to play close to him. Because if we play close to him, what we can end up doing is staying close enough to him that he can't use his proximity photon torpedoes, which I think the lowest accuracy he has on those is like 33%. And so when you're firing at a cloaked vessel, you want to fire proximity photon torpedoes, I believe. Don't quote me 100% on that, but I'm reasonably certain on that. But if you're within, a closest range, their phasers become more accurate, and eventually they'll start getting hits on through. Wow, that was a lot of Gatling phaser fire. Never mind. We're going to drop mines, just sort of mess with the pathfinding on those fighters. I'm not deploying the nuclear space mines as of yet. It's a huge amount of damage, and it might be able to kill an entire fighter squadron. Probably not, actually. These are really durable fighters. But if we can just sort of mess with them for a little while we charge up our other weapons. Now, the fighters are, of course, going to be the primary target. As you can see, he's equipped with 4 photon torpedoes and 2 missile launchers, and he's backing that up with 6 phaser X's and 4 phaser Gs. Those 4 phaser Gs means he's incredibly dangerous up close. But the 6 phaser X's means not so much at medium range, and the 4 photon torpedoes tells us he's essentially a heavy cruiser, despite being on a dreadnought kind of / battleship hull. So his main armament is these fighters. Now, if I ever finally get around to digging into the ship list and fixing the fighter complements so that they're actually, deadly fighters, that'll make him absolutely monstrously deadly. This is the nuclear space mine. Because then he'll have fighters who have massive amounts of heavy weapons. So we have managed to force him to turn away from us. Are you on an in path? No, you are not. So decloak, and we're going to engage you with shotgun torpedoes. Actually, no, we're not, because we don't have a good enough multi-target yet. So F and F, heading your way. Select the S-type plasma torpedoes. We're currently set up for these. Oh, they have such great range. Okay, so we've taken out 3 of his 4 fighter groups, and that shotgun torpedo went right in on them. We're going to set up our tractor beam to engage in a holding. And if I can, I want to drag him over there. So stern firing phasers, fire from the rear. Okay, we've broken him down to just 2 fighters. That's going to be great. So now we're going to turn you, and I want to try and drag you into this nuclear space mine. Because if I can hit you with this, that might be enough to absolutely annihilate you. Now, I don't believe fighters can break out of a tractor beam. So that'll be fun. All weapons select. Fire there. And he's completely dead. Okay. And now we're just fighting you. So select these, select torpedoes to normal. We're going to get behind him and a little bit of distance from him because I do not want to be within range of his G-type plasma torpedoes. So playing sort of the edges of the map at this point. And, if you're going to go in that direction, I'm going to decloak and I'm going to pick up some speed. Our shields are currently being reinforced 360, and we will be able to maintain a decent enough speed. We're not the best skirmisher, simply because of our limited phaser capacity. We're really down to 5 phasers in any direction we choose to engage. Incoming those. So we're going to set tractor defense and slow down just... Oh, crap. That's a scatter pack. Okay, we got that. So that was important, because that would have been 6 more missiles on top of us, and that would have been a bad day. We're going to let our phasers handle this as best as they can. He is going faster than our top speed. That's kind of to be expected, because, well, he doesn't have to power as many heavy weapons as we do. We're going to keep just trying to play away from his front. I don't think... No, we're not going to make that. I don't want to drop the shield, though, or I don't want to go into cloak, because that'll drop our tractor beams, and we need these right now. So he is going to get a decent photon torpedo shot at us. Let's pump some power into the ECM and force him to have to either react to that. Okay. That's what I was a little bit worried about. But now that he is out of... now that he's out of fighters, we can actually start to play the pseudo-frigate game. We're going to set them to harass mode, which will tell them to keep their distance, because I don't want them getting anywhere near that phaser Gatling. If they get too close to that, it's game over. So, plasma torpedoes, send them all in that direction, see what he does to react to it. He did react to it. Okay, so he did dump a wild weasel, and he did waste his pseudo-torpedoes on it. USS Berlin. So, if we had torpedoes set to enveloping, we'd be able to really help out our pseudo-frigates, but since we don't, we're just going to have to do as much damage as we can. Do we want a high-energy turn this yet? Yeah, we do. So we're going to turn hard. All plasma torpedoes selected. 2. Oh, come on, speed up a little bit faster. I need you to go faster than that, friend. There it is. That's the 4. Oh, we took a nice big hit back, but we did manage to do enough that I'm feeling reasonably happy. We're going to come over here to our heavy plasmas, set these to enveloping. We're going to keep the speed a bit low, and we're going to do this to sort of free up so that our light guys can do more damage here. Because as you can see, the weight, having to fire their plasma torpedoes at raised shields makes them much less effective. Although thankfully they can cloak, which makes them much more survivable. So patch some things up, fix that phaser 3. They're still blasting away with their plasmas, and his photon torpedoes are not having a huge amount of effect. 3 open shields means that half of our damage should go through with enveloping plasma torpedoes. As long as we keep at a good angle. His forward shields are still active. Let's get our shield reinforcement concentrated on the front, since we are going to be flying towards him. And I'm tempted to start plinking away, but with a stern shield that powerful, there's really not a huge need to, I guess. And also, we won't really get through much. So we're just going to continue to maneuver around him. We've got to wait 3 turns. Stern firing weapons, he doesn't have a ton of them. And as long as we stay outside of a range of 3, we're relatively safe. We are more maneuverable than he is, absolutely. So we don't have to worry too much about that. Just stay outside of the range of 3 and we're fine. And also, he keeps firing his Gatling phasers at the plasma torpedoes, which really helps us out. Our point defense system handling that perfectly fine. And we've got about another turn left to charge the plasma torpedoes before we can get another big shot in. My only concern is he still has a shuttle bay, and by now I would anticipate him having another plasma torpedo to work, or wild weasel to work with. So we will open fire with the R-type plasma torpedo, try and bait out the shot. Actually, no. An S-type plasma torpedo should bait it out if he's got it. Which I don't think he does. That's a hit. Follow up with this. Prepare this. Oh, slow down. Don't get too close. Don't go. It's very bad to get too close. Yeah, that'll be all the shots that we need. And the last enveloping plasma torpedo just proved too much for him to handle, and he went down. So, excellent work. And we can call this operation successful. Hopefully we'll manage to take this tile. And how much prestige for that? Space control ships are important, but only 288. But we did take the tile, and that will help curtail sort of Federation influence in this area. We do want to take this planet here, just to sort of mainly secure things, and we are going to clean this up before we start moving down the rest of this little snaky area. But that'll end that for an episode there. I've been Tirak. If you like what you've been seeing, hit that like button and subscribe. If you want to receive a notification every time I release one of these videos, press that little bell icon. Leave a comment. How do you think we're doing sort of with Romulan tactics? What sort of Romulan tactics should we be using that we haven't been using? Anyway, I will see you all in the next episode.